Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Talking Games. I'm Andrew, and I'm Kelly.
You missed.
I know I
So that
missed
was
the part
that was
where you said
close.
Talking Games with Kelly and Andrew.
Yeah, but it was good.
I
That's
just,
going in.
I just didn't want to steal your thunder that hard. I didn't want to plagiarize you.
No, it's okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Talking Games with Kelly and Andrew. I'm Andrew,
And I'm Kelly.
and this is real this time. It's actually starting. Sorry if you got a little confused there at the start.
I know we sound very similar.
Yeah. So when it started, you probably were like, "Is that a different person? Has Andrew been replaced? Did Andrew get canceled and then they replaced him but kept the name Andrew?"
Wow. That would be
That-
really interesting if all of that happened in the span of a week.
Yeah, well, we took a week off, so that could have been why we took a week off. Kelly wasn't sick. Andrew, I mean me. I mean Andrew. Well, how would I refer? Andrew has been replaced. I'm the new Andrew. Hello, everybody.
I am the superior Andrew. I am
Yes.
uncancelable.
Yes. Andrew did nothing wrong, just to be clear. We just needed a refresher. We just needed something new and exciting. So we got a new Andrew. That's me. I'm the new Andrew.
Mhm.
Hi, everybody. My name's Andrew.
Hi,
I'm-
Andrew.
Hi. Are you? And you're Kelly, right?
I'm the same old Kelly with a little bit of blockage in my upper sinuses.
Yeah. It's
Uh,
almost like that's why we took off a week, because you were horribly ill.
I'm fine. I'm doing great, everybody. I had some yogurt today and some lo mein. So
Ooh.
really,
Did you have the plague?
No, I
Okay.
didn't. I did not. I still have not, which is very mysterious. Considering perhaps it's almost embarrassing at this point to not have gotten it, but that's okay.
I haven't gotten it either. Maybe the
That's-
podcast keeps it safe.
That's true. Or maybe we just don't go out or talk to anybody ever.
We're gamers.
We're like recluses. And
Can we get a statistic of how many people have had COVID versus how many gamers have had COVID? Is that something we can, some data we can collect feasibly?
I'm not sure what constitutes a gamer. Anyone who listens to Talking Games with Kelly and Andrew?
Yeah, let's ask if you listen to the show, please message us and tell us if you've had COVID.
It's for an important data collection that will really help us get a robust picture of the state of the nation. For the
Yeah, I'm
president.
sure that Talking Games with Kelly and Andrew's audience is very specifically representative of the population of this country.
I believe so. I'm taking this to the top, to the White House.
To the White House, Talking Games with Kelly and Andrew and Joe.
And Joe. We did it, Joe. Okay,
Do you think he
sorry.
Do you think he plays video games?
He probably played Pong.
When he was like 59
when he was
and it
70
came
years
out.
old. No, I don't know. Probably not.
Well, we
he
just
probably
blew that
doesn't get
potential
it.
sponsorship, making fun of him.
Sorry, Mr. President.
This episode is sponsored by the Biden administration.
Get down, Mr. President. Just kidding.
So Kelly, it's been a couple weeks. Did anything happen while we were off? Any news?
Yeah, the craziest, kookiest thing happened. Remember that movie that everybody was kind of talking about with a certain Christopher Pratt? A certain Chris
Ah.
Pratt?
Yeah, Chris Son.
Chris. Well, it was announced in a tweet from Nintendo of America, and this is how the tweet began. It said, "This is Miyamoto." Okay, thanks, Miyamoto. Okay, I will directly quote the tweet for you. This is Miyamoto. Period. After consulting with Chris San, my partner at Illumination on the Super Mario Bros. Film, we decided to move the global release to spring 2023, April 28th in Japan and April 7th in North America. My deepest apologies, but I promise it will be well worth the wait. And that was the end of the tweet.
I will never, ever, ever forget looking at my Twitter and seeing pure text from Nintendo, which is usually concerning. Because if you see just text with no media, it's usually some really bad news.
Yeah.
And just the first 3 words, this is Miyamoto. I will never get over that. I'm like not disappointed, but like, oh well, the Mario movie got delayed. Oh well. I don't care though, because this tweet was so good that it's worth the delay.
It was really good. I thought it was very funny to consider, even though this is not the case, but I thought it was funny to consider that he didn't consult with Chris San, like the guy who works at Illumination, but he consulted with Chris Pratt.
I really hope it's Chris Pratt.
Who was like, we need to push this movie back, Miyamoto-san. I can't. There's too much pressure.
Too much pressure?
He's been through a lot right now, with Jurassic Park, and Mario is just really tough for him. He really has to he needs to be the character. He needs to do method acting, so he needs to study the character. He needs to go to Italy. He needs to be a plumber. He really needs to ingratiate himself with the essence of Mario.
Yeah.
And then, only then, will the movie be ready for public audiences.
And he's going to do that in 4 months.
Yes. Exactly. You can get a lot done in 4 months. That's 30,
not real.
60, 90,
This
100.
Movie's not real.
Yeah.
This movie's not real. I'm really
It's
excited. It's
definitely not real at this juncture.
I'm really excited for every few months seeing that this is Miyamoto tweet while they delay it even more.
I want him to deliver that news in I want him to deliver news that is completely unrelated to anything Nintendo in that way. This is Miyamoto. The stock market is plummeting. The housing market has crashed. The bubble has popped. And also it is 74 degrees out, mostly sunny.
This
After
is Miyamoto.
consulting.
Go ahead. No.
No.
You first.
No. That was it.
This is Miyamoto. I had a really nice bowl of ramen for lunch today. It was delicious. I highly recommend it.
This is
Thank you,
Miyamoto.
everybody.
I watched the movie Mean Girls for the very first time yesterday, last night, and that made me laugh so much, and I think everybody should watch it. Thank you, everybody.
And the best part is he's using the Nintendo of America Twitter account for this. Every time he has thoughts, he gets the username and password and logs in.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, maybe some news he'll be tweeting about. This is Miyamoto. Embracer Group has acquired Crystal Dynamics, Eidos, and Square Enix Montreal, along with the associated IPs such as Tomb Raider and Deus Ex, for $300 million directly from Square Enix. So just to be clear, this does not mean that they have been acquired. Square Enix has not been acquired. They simply sold off their Western studios for $300 million, which is a number that seemed supremely low to me. Because that's 3 really big studios, and also Tomb Raider and Deus Ex are gigantic. It makes me wonder, maybe there were some serious debts that they were also kind of getting, because every time a new Square Enix game came out in the West, Guardians of the Galaxy or the new Tomb Raiders, they're always oh, these games were massive disappointments, even though they sell several million copies. So maybe that was so poorly managed that they also bought the debt. They got the debt along with the properties. I don't know. This was weird news. I've never heard of a partial acquisition like this.
Yeah, it is very peculiar. I was curious about the Embracer Group because I've never heard of such a thing. But it's very, very interesting. Yeah. They own a lot of franchises. And they're in 10 different groups. THQ Nordic, Gearbox, Dark Horse. But the one that really stuck out to me was Koch Media. like the Koch brothers, Koch. I thought that was interesting. So I agree with you. This news is very strange.
It's definitely not like anything I've heard before.
Oh, wait. This is a totally different... Wait. Oh, yes. This is very confusing. This Koch media company...
Where are you lost?
...is a German-Austrian media company. Founded by...
Unrelated?
Unrelated?
But is that related or unrelated to Koch? Like
It's really hard for me to tell. I honestly can't tell. There's so many different people with the last name Koch. It's like...
And none of them are Ocola. Sorry,
That's
that wasn't
true.
even... That wasn't
Or a Ain. A Cane. Cane.
Oh,
Cane.
I had no idea what you're saying. You're like, okay.
This is so... my brain is melted through my ears, so I apologize.
There's some weirdness about this. There's a couple implications. One being that Square Enix is doing this so that they can really go all in on their live service NFT focus, which would be very incredible if true, considering the NFT market is currently in a free fall. Thank goodness for that, because we're big fans of NFTs here at Talking Games. But the other possibility here, and who's to say if this perhaps is a follow-up or directly involved with the story, but there are rumors beginning to circulate that Sony is planning to acquire Square Enix of Japan. This is reported by Forbes, among others. I was really not expecting to hear this news. I feel like the acquisition game kind of slowed down after that huge boom as like the fiscal years were, or I guess as the year itself, it was coming to an end, Like the Activision deal was huge and then the Bungie deal was huge. And I just kind of assumed that we were going to get a big break, but this has to be huge. This would be gigantic if it's true. And it also concerns me.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, like you were talking about the NFT market being in like a free-for-all right now. This all just sort of feels like what we were saying. I guess we're not... this is more about the previous news story. But it's like all these companies really like went all in, and now it's like they're going to lose a bunch of money. But I do think it's interesting that that this is like... I guess this is just like the acquisition game now. Who can buy what? Who can scoop up what? How much money we can bring in? How much money we're going to end up spending? It just feels very insidious to me. But I feel like we talked about this maybe when we were talking about other big acquisitions, that Sony's avenues were tightening to do an acquisition as big as Microsoft did. And that Square Enix might be one of them, even though it's not on the same scale, but it's
still big.
But
yeah, I don't remember which of us, but one of us definitely specifically brought that up as like a potential option in our discussions.
Yeah. I don't know.
I think where my nerves come from ultimately is when I look at the current PlayStation like release calendar and how poor they are at actually putting games out. And then I look at Square Enix, who not a perfect company by any stretch of the imagination, but they put out a lot of like interesting smaller scale projects. Like think about like the 2D HD things like Octopath and Triangle Strategy, or the weird stuff they had at the end of the last State of Play, or even some of like the strange Final Fantasy spin-offs. And part of me is concerned because that really doesn't feel like what PlayStation would regularly do. They're only interested in like top of the line huge games, really. And I don't want Square Enix to become exclusively like a Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, and Kingdom Hearts company. I love those series. I love those series a whole lot. But the idea of those being the only thing that this rich company makes is like, that concerns me. It disappoints me. If it was true.
Yeah, it's hard to say what this, like, the potential implications of this could be. But I think your concerns are very, very realistic. And, you know, we see these companies kind of get gobbled up, and then there's only so much that they can do for, like, old IPs, or like you said, IPs that aren't Kingdom Hearts or Final Fantasy. You know, these smaller games that do really well on, like, the Switch and PC, and maybe aren't as, you know, maybe aren't as console focused.
Yeah, games don't need to be billion-dollar products, every single one of them. It's unrealistic to view them as such.
Right.
But that really feels like that's what Sony's goal is these days.
Yeah. Sony has a lot of interesting little fingers in different stews, in different pots.
Ow.
You like that?
Burnt fingers.
That's right. One time I burnt my hand really bad at a job that I was working, and I won't say where it was, but I burnt my hand really bad, and it was like the space between my thumb and my index finger, like right here in that little apex area, and it hurt so bad, and I experienced a lot of pain. So I can only imagine the pain of sticking your finger in a hot pot of stew.
And they're doing it, according to you, lots of times.
That's true.
Was this supposed to be a transition, or are you just telling a story?
I'm just sort of speaking off the dome. It was a transition because...
Okay, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have asked, because now it seems like it was a bad one. But it wasn't. It was great.
That's okay. Well, you don't have to lie. That's all right. I just was bringing, adding a little bit of personal spice into the fray here. I feel
the stew.
Into the stew. The talking game stew.
Ew, no.
I honestly feel a little bit... My brain still feels a little bit foggy and waxy. So you'll have to forgive me if I'm not on my A game. But I will say something very interesting that is happening going forward is that PlayStation Plus will be offering 2-hour trials for all games, $34 or more. $34.
I was really, that number was confusing to me. I was like, why is it not 30? Why is it $34?
I guess it's 4,000 yen in Japan, so it's more of a well-rounded number, but the direct conversion seems a little bit interesting. But the trial versions have to be at least 2 hours long. If the game costs less than $34 US, it's not eligible. And I guess that just means that if you want to try and play a game, now you'll have the ability to do a trial version that is 2 hours long.
That's huge. That's really, if this is executed in the way that all these reports are suggesting, that's really, really cool. Because that means every time a new game comes out, you would theoretically be able to just give it a try for up to 2 hours, included with the cost of your PlayStation Plus subscription. And I just think that's a really cool thing to do. It's twofold. One, it seems very consumer friendly on the one hand, and then two, it also seems like PlayStation is trying to cover their tushes because they're really bad about refunds. So this is kind of like their way of being like, well, we don't have to refund you if you get to try it. Are you excited by this prospect?
I guess it's a bit, for me, I also think it's exciting, but I think it is a little bit harder for smaller developers because they may not necessarily have the time or the money or the resources to put into making these trial versions of the games.
Right. So that was actually a major narrative because after this story broke, there was a follow-up saying that PlayStation was actually going to take care of these trials for the developers.
What does that mean?
So I'm assuming it literally just means PlayStation will introduce updates that makes it so you download the whole game, and then after you've played 120 minutes, it just cuts you off and you have to pay more. But developers have the option to provide like a demo version of their game in lieu of that.
Oh.
So like if a developer doesn't have the resources to put together a 2-hour trial or anything like that, they can just let PlayStation take care of it, or they can make their own trial version or demo version, and they can send it to PlayStation to be put in place of that trial.
Interesting.
So I'm sure certain developers will do that because, like, I don't know, there's games like, I don't know why Sonic Forces comes to mind. Oh, yes, I do. Sonic Forces can be beaten in under 2 hours. And I remember there was this big discussion because there was a popular streamer whose name eludes me, and it's not really relevant. He bought and downloaded Sonic Forces on Steam and then beat it on stream in like 1 hour and 50 minutes and then returned it on stream. And there was a lot of discussion. It's like, well, you played the whole game. Do you really have a right to like return this product? And like legally, yes, he was within his rights, but I feel like games like that, that'll be when the developers are like, okay, we should probably make a trial version that's special so people can't just beat the game.
Right.
I don't know. It's a really cool concept if it's executed well, and hopefully we'll know within like a month when the new PlayStation Plus service rolls out if that's one of the things that it'll launch with.
I think like I said, I don't really see the downside to this at all. That was kind of my only concern, and if it's going to be, if it's going to have a workaround, then I think that's only good.
I brought up Sonic.
You did.
Yuji Naka made Sonic.
That's true.
Yuji Naka also made Balan Wonderworld, a critically esteemed darling. Oh, yeah, right? Did we didn't have this show, right? When that happened?
Critically and then define esteemed.
Critically as in me, and esteemed as in I have never played it and will never play it.
Okay. I have heard literally only bad things.
Yeah. Balan Wonderworld was released by Square Enix a couple years back, and it was critically panned, despised by most, unfinished, and it was directed by Sonic creator Yuji Naka. He left Sega to work on this Square Enix game, and now he is suing Square Enix on the grounds that he was terminated wrongfully 6 months before the game launched, after citing to the company that the game was going to be released in an unfinished state and saying that had to be changed. And in response, Square Enix said, "You're fired." But they kept his name on all the marketing. He was still touted as the director. So there were some legal proceedings that started, and Yuji Naka said that he wasn't allowed to say anything till now. But now he is public about the fact that he is suing in a lawsuit. I'm not a very good speaker, am I?
You're doing better than me.
He's filing a lawsuit against Square Enix, so we have to wait and see how this turns out. But this is really not the news I expected to hear. I did not expect to hear that, the game was unfinished and rushed out the door. I didn't expect to hear that Square Enix was, almost malicious in their intent with releasing this game unfinished.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I've been thinking a lot about the law and lawyers lately because I've been watching a lawyer-related television program.
No spoilers. I'm way behind you.
Oh. Okay, I won't say anything.
We'll talk about Better Call Saul when we're not on the air.
But as far as I know, things like this are really, really hard to prove. Like wrongful termination is really, really difficult to prove. So I wonder if maybe this is some sort of attempt to settle. Just because, it's bad press for Square Enix. I mean, I don't think, truthfully, a lot of people are very sympathetic towards Yuji Naka just because they associate him with this game, which was just like a dumpster fire.
I think that's why he's doing it, though, right?
Right. And I'm sure that he wants to improve his reputation. But I think ultimately it will probably end in a settlement just because I'm sure Square Enix would be willing to pay to be like,
Hush, hush.
I just want to stop talking about this game and stop talking about this, that this happened. But I do think it's interesting. And I do feel like your take on it of them being like malicious is, it is weird. It's very strange. It's like, if you knew the game wasn't going to be ready, and if he allegedly told you that it wasn't going to be ready, then maybe you should have the oversight to know that games like this, when they're released unfinished, it just invites a lot of bad press, bad reputation, just negative feelings towards what could have been a potential new property. And not that it wasn't a new property, but a new franchise, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I think this is very interesting, and I would be surprised if it went to trial. I would be surprised if it continued in this way. But I would not be surprised if they settled with him.
It's a really weird story that I'm at least looking forward to talking about more whenever we get more news, hopefully in the near future.
Yeah. Hopefully.
So, well, that was wonderful news. Is there any other great news?
Well, there is one big thing happening. Maybe big. Xbox announced that they will be having a Xbox and Bethesda game showcase on June 12th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It will be on, YouTube, Twitch, but who knows what they're going to talk about. Xbox and Bethesda. I think we will be seeing Starfield.
We better.
I kind of cringed after I said that, just because, like, if we didn't, what's happening?
I mean, when I heard this, I got really excited because, like, let's be realistic. This is the E3 conference that they've had planned for months, and then E3 got canceled. Yeah. And they're like, well, we're still doing it on June 12th because they always do it the Sunday of E3, which is always, I think, the second Sunday of June. So, like, this announcement isn't it's surprising because E3 got canceled and they're still just doing it anyway. But I'm very excited because last year's was killer. I think last year, if you take out the, like, Nintendo bias, last year Xbox was truly dominant at E3.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, guys. Here's how Dragon Age can still show itself this summer. I'm just kidding.
Oh, I thought you were gonna, like, lay out a scenario. I didn't realize you were done talking. No, that was the
whole thing.
Well,
it's kind of like that joke that, not to get political, but it was like, during the election, it was like, here's how Bernie Sanders can still win the nomination. And it was like, there was just like, no way. It was like all these very specific instances that just weren't going to happen. That's how I feel about Dragon Age showing up this summer. I do think we'll see it, but not
I think Dragon Age is as likely to appear at this Xbox game showcase as Bernie Sanders is.
Hey, man, you never know.
I'm very excited. I'm hoping that maybe some other developers like Devolver or Square Enix announce that they also have conferences for this week, and it is just E3 functionally without the title. But
yeah,
even if not, this Xbox one should definitely keep me entertained, and I will always happily look at everything that Game Pass is adding over the coming year.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they're going to show off.
Maybe some video games.
No.
Did you play any this week, Kelly?
Nothing I haven't talked about before on this show.
So what? Elden Ring, Dragon Age, Mass Effect, Stardew?
No Stardew.
No Stardew.
I've been playing... I started a new Mass Effect playthrough because I do this thing in my brain where if a game came out a year ago, I start feeling like I need to play the game again. So Mass Effect Legendary Edition came out like a year ago. Next week. So I felt like I wanted to play it again. And I did the same thing with Cyberpunk in December. So
That's crazy. That means that we are just about to be at 1 year of talking games.
I know. Can you believe that?
No, legitimately no. Just like
I
regular
actually
no.
can't.
Oh my lord.
Oh my lord.
I played a couple games this week. I figure, Kelly,
Mm-hmm.
we could play a little game here at the beginning.
Oh,
I played a lot of games.
okay.
So we had to take off last week because Kelly was vehemently sick. And due to that, I have been pounding games into the ground, beating them like it's nobody's business. Oh, beating sounds bad after what I just said. Finishing video games
Oh,
at a rapid rate.
pounding? Finishing?
Stop.
Okay.
I've been watching the credits of video games after I have played every part of their main campaigns. I don't know, Kelly. Can I please just say the fun game
Yes.
I was going to say?
Yes.
Kelly, which game do you want me to review first? You're going to pick the order in which I review things.
Oh, wow. I think I'd like you to talk about Dying Light 2.
No, I was trying to highlight it to tell
Oh.
you not to say that. Everyone but that one.
I thought you were trying to get me to say that. Okay. I take it back.
No, that implies that I'm trying to... This isn't even a real game. That implies to the audience that this is not unscripted. This is unscripted, I promise.
This is
audience.
unscripted. We don't, there's nothing going
Actually,
on.
that's pretty clear right now based on our ramblings.
Okay,
All right, Kelly.
okay.
You pick the order, just not that one.
Okay, I want you to tell me your Trek to Yomi review.
Trek to Yomi. That's a good start. Trek to Yomi released on Thursday of last week, May 5th. May the 5th be with you. It is a new game published by Devolver Digital, heavily inspired by old black and white samurai movies made by Akira Kurosawa. We've talked about it a couple times on the show as we've seen some trailers, and I've been very excited for this independently made game. So, I played it and I finished it. The visual style is top-notch. Their commitment to this visual style is really admirable, and they do a good job of making the graphics look more realistic because of the black and white and kind of fuzzy visual overlay. The music is really great. It elevates the feel and the theme of the game a lot. The combat is very fun for a lot of the game. However, it gets stale by the end. There were a couple combos that worked definitively better than most, and they also recovered my lost health. So like being slow and using the blocking mechanic became obsolete, which is disappointing because the parrying was really fun. But why wouldn't I use the thing that always kills enemies and gives me health back that I've lost? So fights in the last third of the game feel less like a challenge and more like they're kind of impeding on my progression of the story. It was really disappointing in that sense. The story is intriguing and it's kind of hard to talk about because I can't say anything without spoiling it, because I really expected it to go one way based on all the trailers, and honestly, that probably would have made it kind of disinteresting, like something I've seen or played before. But it goes a direction I really didn't expect, and that's all I can say. So if you're interested, you'll have to play it yourself. One major complaint is that the subtitles are itty bitty teeny tiny, which is bad because it is in Japanese, and there's a lot of important dialogue that is spoken during gameplay. And I really don't know how they can expect me to read these itty bitty, teeny tiny little words on my screen during exploration and especially during combat. And I don't like games that don't let me control subtitle size because I am addicted to subtitles now. And I want them big so I can read them while I am looking at other stuff. But speaking of the Japanese, the voice acting is fantastic. It is really authentic to that kind of 60s Kurosawa feel, and I think all of the actors absolutely nailed their performances, and I was super happy with it. I think the 5-hour length of the game kind of ended up feeling a little bloated, and maybe like 3 to 4 hours for the main story would have been a little better, That's mostly due to my complaints with the combat losing its luster in the last chunk. But despite those hesitations with the length, combat, and subtitles, I do highly recommend this game. It is unique, and it's likely not like anything else you've played, or at least not like much else that you've played. And that's a theme this week, as you will hear. A lot of unique products, and that's exciting. It's only $20, and if you have Game Pass, it is free, so it is not a massive financial investment, and I really do recommend looking into it if it sounds interesting. Kelly.
Yes?
One down. Pick my next review.
Oh, I was actually going to say I'm watching a video of Trek to Yomi right now.
Uh-huh.
The combat looks a little bit stuttery to me, but maybe that's just the video.
It's good in the first chunk. It is a little stuttery, I guess, but it feels better to play than to watch. It reminds me almost of like a dumbed down fighting game in like the way combos work and parrying works.
Yeah. Okay, my next game for you to review that I would like to hear your thoughts on is Final Fantasy Origin Stranger of Paradise.
Okay. So that's going to be really hard because this game, quite simply, is fictional. This is not a real product. And I'm sorry for those who were excited to hear the impressions of this game because this game doesn't exist. This game does not exist, and I'm sorry if you were looking forward to hearing the impressions of a real video game. In actuality, this is one of the weirdest games I've played in my life. The writing was so peculiar and so inhuman, so random and confusing that it simply has to be the first thing I mention. It is hysterical. I was laughing out loud, louder than I've laughed at maybe any game I've ever played that has tried to be funny. I understood the story in broad strokes, but since it was written in such a peculiar and unfollowable way, I did not understand the finer details. The plot itself was quite simple, but what they were trying to explain to me with the deeper lore was just lost in the peculiarity. The combat is very fun. It's really fun to play with and master some of the mechanics that they designed. It's super fast paced, and once you've played a couple chapters, it becomes a lot easier to follow because it's kind of just visual noise for a little bit while you're learning what's going on. I played the game on easy mode. I ignored all of the side content, basically. And I breezed through most of the game, barring a couple bosses that I was notably underleveled for. The class system is really, really cool. So you actually do not have any character levels, which is unusual for a Final Fantasy. Instead, each class has its own levels and skill trees. So at the end of each skill tree, you can actually unlock even more advanced classes. And it's a really fun system to explore and experiment with. And all the classes offer different weapons, different abilities, and different options in combat. And I just thought it was a really cool thing to explore and learn about. The music's really great. There are a lot of tracks that are referential to old Final Fantasy games because this game has areas from many old Final Fantasy games. And also all of the new tracks that they wrote are fantastic as well. The visuals. So, the visuals are something that I am able to see. Is that clear? Did that help?
How do you see them? With what tools?
My eyes. Does that help? Do you understand what I'm trying to say about the visuals of this game?
Yes.
Okay. Maybe I should break it down. The character designs of this game are adequate, but with the way the equipment system works, your characters look completely different. This is not an exaggeration. Every 15 minutes. You go into the menus and you have like a equipment section. And if you press the touchpad or the similar button on whatever console you're playing on, it will automatically equip the most optimized gear to your character. And there's a lot, and it all looks drastically different. So every time I go in there, because they're throwing loot at you like it's nobody's business, every enemy you kill drops like 7 pieces of loot that you can put on. You were literally looking different, completely different, every few minutes, and it's hilarious. It is so funny, and there's more than one fedora in the game.
Oh. Oh my god.
The weapon and equipment designs are very insane, and I think that makes it a lot of fun. It goes in tandem with the constant change. The world design is inconsistent, but the design and art direction is nice for the majority of the game. There are a handful of missions where the palette becomes really, really drab. I think the demo area when they first showed this game was the worst offender, which is a shame because that's what a lot of people took in as their initial impressions. Very gray and ugly. The graphics are bad. The textures are muddy. There is consistent artifacting and strange ugliness. There's like this weird cloudiness behind characters that I don't know what to call it, but it happens quite regularly. The resolution is iffy at best. The performance is generally pretty stable on PS5, but it even struggled occasionally. The character models are the one part of the game that feels like it was made for last generation, like PlayStation 4. Everything else feels like it was an upgraded PlayStation 3 game. It's very unimpressive, which does not say that it's ugly all the time, because the art design and the direction that they took is pretty nice, but the graphics are bad. There's no arguing that. But I had a great time with this game. It might be because I had absurdly low expectations, but this game was a good time. It was weird. The combat was engaging, and the leveling system was really incredible, genuinely. The writing was actually hilarious. It was funnier than almost every game I've ever played that was supposed to be funny. So even if it was by accident, oh well. It helped me enjoy the game a lot. I would not recommend paying full price for this game, but I'm assuming it'll drop in price pretty quickly here. So I would recommend it at like a steep discount, maybe like a third of the original retail price, or maybe go try to find it at a library or rent it from your local Family Video. I'm sure those exist somewhere still.
Blockbuster.
Are there still Family Videos?
I don't. The one near me closed.
Okay, both of the ones near me closed last year, I think. So maybe they're gone. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. That's quite sad.
There's probably still a few out there, like a few stragglers. But I do recommend giving this game a try. It is, again, one of the strangest products I've played in my life, and that is something unique. That is something I can't say every day. And these days, I've played so many games that it's fun to play something different, you know? There are things that are critically easy to say, this is a great game, but I end up feeling a touch bored.
Oh.
Which maybe serves as a good transition into my next game review.
Oh, I don't get to pick anymore?
And you can pick after that.
Okay, go ahead.
Horizon Forbidden West. As teased last episode, I came back to this game and I finished it. Right off the bat, the graphics of this game are absolutely incredible. There are certain characters that are just real people. I'm convinced they just somehow implanted real human beings in because they look profoundly real. And a lot of the effects that they have are really cool and use the PlayStation 5 very well. The performance is very solid. I do wish that the 60 FPS mode didn't have so many graphical compromises because I would have preferred to play it that way, but the 30 FPS mode is still pretty nice. I typed 0 frames per second in the sheet, and Kelly's being very cheeky about changing that to 60.
Sorry, I was a bit confused when I read that.
Me too, and I wrote it.
0 FPS mode?
0 FPS mode is turning the TV off and being like, this game sucks. The cutscenes of this game are really well directed and engaging. It is a huge step up from the first game. It resolved maybe my biggest problem with that original game because so many cutscenes were just stagnant over the shoulder, back and forth conversations, whereas this game has a lot of motion and interesting stuff going on. The vocal performances are fantastic across the board, clearly a very high budget game with a lot of interesting and great voice talent. The writing is pretty good. There's nothing wild here. Aloy's stoic independence, it comes across very good, but it also means that the character interactions kind of have this limited depth. Because if she's talking to a character, yes, they did a great job of writing her stoic, but that means she's also not having a very interesting or deep conversation with most of the characters. The combat is fun, but it can definitely become repetitive at a point. The open world tasks kind of feel a little hollow to me. They're hard. It doesn't keep me invested. I do think that the side quests, the main side quests, do have a good amount of depth, though, so it's not all boring stuff. The open world itself is a bit restrictive in how you get around it for the majority of the game, though. It's a massive improvement over the first game, which I found deeply flawed, but still pretty far behind some of the better open worlds that we have. It feels like it really doesn't want you to climb very many things, and when you put me in an open world with a bunch of mountains and stuff, I want to climb them, please.
Ain't no mountain high enough. Exactly.
Aloy can climb it all. But she can't. The game says she's not allowed. And also the glider's way too heavy. Like when you pull the glider out, you fall really quickly. And I didn't want them to like copy Breath of the Wild 1-to-1, but Aloy's not that much heavier than Link, is she?
I don't imagine. So some things are worth copying 1-to-1.
Yeah. It would have been, of all things, I wish they did that. I think the monster designs are cool. But this has always been a problem with this franchise for me. They're not for me. I think they're overly complicated, and it's kind of hard to appreciate because it's just like thousands of metal pieces, and I don't think it's supremely interesting. But there are some late game enemies that are a lot different than the standard fare that we're used to, and I like them a lot more. Not a lot of enemies in that late game, though, so it's only a couple little things. I think the story was okay. It was directed and paced in a way that kept me invested enough to see it through at the very least. But the story also ended up being my least favorite part because the ending of this game was very, very bad. I don't think that setting up a sequel is a bad thing inherently. But however, that's how serious I am. I needed to say, however, twice. Doing so in lieu of a satisfying ending is just frustrating. This game ends without solving the major crisis because it was more focused on setting up the next game in the series. And I think it's normal for your last bit of experience with the game to kind of be the thing that sticks with you more than most of your memories. And this kind of ruined it in that sense, because this will probably be the thing I remember the longest, is that horrible ending. But do take note, I did enjoy this game overall, on a surface level at the very least. I think it's a decent improvement over the first game, because I didn't like the first game very much at all, and I like it. I don't love it, but I like it. And if you love open world games like this, if you love your Assassin's Creed games, if you loved Ghost of Tsushima and you need more, this is gonna be your kind of game. But if you weren't a big fan of the first, and especially, and I cannot emphasize this recommendation enough, if you are just finishing up Elden Ring, do not play this game. If you just finished Elden Ring, do not play Horizon for a while, because that was the biggest hurdle, was getting over the incredible combat and world design of Horizon. I'm sorry, I just accidentally complimented the game. I'm trying to be a little bit rude too. After coming off the incredible world design and combat of Elden Ring, Horizon really, really felt like it was falling short and just doing a lesser version of the incredible game that came out just a couple months ago, 1 week after Horizon. I am disappointed. I was really hoping this game would kind of pull through, but, it wasn't bad. I liked it more than the first game, which is at least a positive. So, all right, Kelly, it's your turn again. Pick. You got 2 other games to pick from here.
Okay, I think I want you to talk about your thoughts on Kena?
Kena.
Kena.
Yeah. This one's going to be quick. I have talked briefly about this on the show before because I had started it, and I decided after finishing a bunch of games that it was time to get back into it. Because, oh my god, the cutscenes in this game are beyond stunning, and the visual design is fantastic. However, I found the combat pretty iffy, and the gameplay loop it wasn't clicking for me. I ended up bouncing off this game, and I was like, I was in a mindset where I was like, all right, I got to play like a couple more hours and see if maybe it's going to turn around, or even just like allow me to develop more thoughts for the podcast, because I want to review it more in depth than just saying not for me. However, I got soft locked. I was exploring and I was like, that looks like a fun rock to jump on. And I jumped on it, and then Kana landed on it, and I was like, I don't think I'm supposed to be here. And I could not get off that rock. And I died, and it put me back on that rock. And then I died, and it put me back on that rock. And I was not allowed to leave that rock. So I felt like that was the universe saying, you should probably stop playing this now. So I'm sorry if you were excited to hear more Kana impressions, but that's going to be it for me. I have decided I'm done with this one.
That's sad. It's always hard when it's like, you kind of are like, oh, maybe I'll enjoy this game. And then you start it and you're like, that's crazy. I hate this game.
Yeah. And I didn't want to like be mad, but like it literally locked me on a rock, and I like reloaded, and I was still on the rock, and I was like, I'm not going to replay a section of the game.
Yeah.
To get back to this point.
And you know what?
So
that was no rock lobster.
No, that lobster wasn't a rock That's
soft
lobster.
Yes. Soft lock lobster. Soft lock lobster. You gotta say that 3 times fast. Soft lock lobster. Soft lock lobster. Soft lock lobster.
Soft lock lobster. Soft lock lobster. Soft lock lobster. Oh no! I'm usually pretty good at those. I feel like we've done those a lot on the show, and it's worked pretty good for me. But I just proved that I am an imperfect person.
Aren't we all?
Yeah. I got 2 more. You're not allowed to pick the order, but do you want to pretend you're allowed to pick the order?
2 more. Sure. I thought, okay.
I have a blue one and a red one.
Oh, okay.
You skipped the first one.
I know. Well, you know what? Why don't you make your choice if you want to end on a good note or on a bad note?
I want to end on a bad note. That's way more interesting.
Okay, then why don't you tell me all about Transistor?
Transistor. It is a game from Supergiant Games, the creators of Hades. I had never played this game. It came out several years ago, and I had it on my Switch for a long time. I bought it for $1.99 like 2 years ago, and then just never played it. But recently I was sitting on my Switch in handheld, and I had about 3 hours to play, and I was like, I bet I could get through a chunk of Transistor. Little did I know I was going to be playing the whole thing. But it was very interesting to go back to an older Supergiant game, because I've only played Hades, and I've played many, many, many hours, like dozens of hours of Hades, so I didn't know how I would feel going back to this older game. I think the visuals were very nice. It is very similar to Hades, so that's going to be a lot of this review is similar to Hades, but older. The art direction was super incredible, though. So different from that, and really, really inspired and beautiful. I think the music and the voice acting were fantastic. You are consistently talked to by your companion, who is in a sword, and he has a lot of interesting things to say and is voiced very, very well. There's also some voice actors that are the same as Hades, and I'm sorry to mention again, but I just really like hearing Thanatos from Hades talk to me, even if it's not Thanatos.
Yes.
The combat is pretty deep, and I really thought it was interesting. However, the length of the game means that truly exploring it is pretty difficult. I think there's this mechanic where you can freeze time and move around and use a certain number of attacks, and then when you unfreeze, you do all of those things very rapidly. And I think it was a very interesting mechanic, but because I only had 3 hours with the game before the credits rolled, I really wasn't able to explore it very well. And the game didn't present a lot of reasons to want to replay it. So I hope that whatever Supergiant has in the works in the future, maybe they could bring this mechanic back, or perhaps a sequel to this game. I think the story was intriguing, but understanding what was going on was a little challenging. I can't very well explain the lore of this game to you because it was only 3 hours long and there was a lot of information they were loading onto me. But I still was able to enjoy it because the characters themselves were so interesting. This game is often on sale. As I said, I got this for a $1.99 on Switch. So if you like Hades and you want to see more of what Supergiant's done in the past, I really do recommend it. I mean, for $2, like, $2, come on. Do I even need to review a game that costs $2?
$2 hairs.
Exactly. It's just, it's like, it's $2. If you're disappointed, oh well, there goes half of your one Dunkin' Donuts coffee.
Whoa, they are not sponsoring us. You cannot name drop them like that.
Sorry, I meant to say one of your unnamed coffee establishment coffees.
If we could get a Dunkin' sponsorship, it would be over.
Talking Games runs on Dunkin'.
We joke, but it kind of does for me at least.
I would love to be drinking Dunkin' that was sponsored while we're talking about games.
That would be pretty amazing.
Kelly, I played one more game this week. I feel like
Yes.
I played too many games. Too many games this week. Sorry, everybody.
You kind of went crazy. You went ham. You know what that means?
That I went crazy.
Do you want to know what it means, though? It
Yeah.
stands for something.
What
Hard-
does?
Yeah. Ready?
Yeah.
Hard as a... I can't say it on this show.
Rock.
Lobster.
Wait, no, I don't actually know what it means.
Hard as a... Here, you can cut this out. Or bleep
No,
it.
just wait, type it in the sheet and then I'll laugh and then everybody's going to be like, oh, what's it mean? Whoa. Whoa. Don't look that up, audience. It's obscene. I didn't know that.
Well, maybe it's not, but it is.
It is for me now. I will forever remember that and I won't say going ham ever again.
No.
Well, besides that. Do you want to withhold the illusion that you have choice here, even though there's one thing left, and pick what review I do next?
Me not having a choice? What is this? The United
Mass
States of
Effect
America?
3's ending.
Oh, sorry, we went two different directions there.
Yeah. Yours was extremely topical and mine was extremely not. I guess we could... I support women's rights.
Why don't you... I support women's wrongs. Why don't you tell me about...
I was trying to support our audience and make it clear of our, political affiliation, even though we don't have one. And you're sitting here like, I like it when people go nuts, and I'm gonna review another video game. Which one should I do, Kelly?
I like it when people go ham. Okay, I want you to tell me your thoughts on Dying Light 2.
I rented Dying Light 2 for the PlayStation 5 from my local library. Brand new, exciting, big game.
Oh.
What? Oh, we're sorry. We're still doing a podcast. Sorry. I'm just so bored by Dying Light 2. So I was on a roll this week, Kelly, as we just talked about, of enjoying games that were kind of critically middling. Trek to Yomi, Strangers of Paradise, both games that were not extremely critically well received. And I was kind of hoping that streak was going to keep going and that I was going to keep enjoying games that weren't super well received. This game did a really good job of boring me to tears and making sure that trend died aggressively. I didn't play a lot of this game, so take that as you will. If it's a game you're super interested in, maybe you loved the first game, ignore my opinions. Please ignore my opinions and enjoy what you like. But I thought that the combat felt very bad and clunky, and hits don't land as they should, and it feels sort of like you're just swinging at air, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. The movement is fine, but it's not as snappy or consistent as I would have hoped. And that's disappointing because when we were seeing footage of this game last year, I remember saying some suggestive things about how excited I was to try out these movement mechanics. Do you remember my word choice?
No.
I said I was sultry for good movement mechanics.
Oh. When you
Call
said
back.
suggestive, that's how I should have known.
Yeah. But, alas, I was left disappointed by the movement mechanics,
Dang.
which is disappointing after sultriness. The graphics were nice. They were fine, but none of the visual choices of the game felt particularly unique or inspired. Really nothing about this game felt particularly unique or inspired. There was a cutscene where it just had a song from The Last of Us. Not actually, but it was like the trembling guitar sound. You know? Like Last of Us's trademark, like, this is emotional, be sad sound.
Yeah.
And it just did that in a part that was supposed to be sad. And I was like, I don't know these people. Why am I sad? Like, instantly toss me into tragedy and expect me to be sad? No.
No.
Unless one of these people's voiced by Troy Baker, like, it's probably not going to work. So I will not be playing more of this game. So sorry, everybody who is excited to hear my long-term Dying Light 2 impressions. Was that you, Kelly? Were you excited to hear more?
I was sultry to hear more.
No. No, we're good.
What?
I think
What?
we were approaching the end of the show, but I feel like we need to now speed up our conclusion to the show, because
joke.
Kelly, next week we'll be back with some news. This is episode 46. We're only a couple episodes away from our 50th episode.
Wow.
We're only a couple episodes away from our 1-year anniversary.
Wow.
What's even going to happen, everybody? You'll just have to keep tuning in and find out.
We're just going to fight. We're going to fist fight each other.
I don't remember agreeing to that.
Well, you signed this sheet of paper that said that we can fist fight whenever I wanted, so.
That sounds familiar. Did we make that joke on an episode?
Maybe. I don't have any new jokes. Everything I say is recycled within 11 months.
Okay. Well, it's been 11 months since we started the show, so that makes sense.
Well, and there you go.
The next 50 episodes are just going to be the same exact first 50, but hopefully it's been 11 months so you forgot what Kelly said, so it's still funny.
Yeah. Because it was funny the first time.
It was hysterical. Like, oh, are you okay? Are you okay?
No.
That sounded pained.
I'm like having I'm like my cough. My brain hurts. Anyway.
Are you? Well, maybe you should take a week to rest so when we come back, it's.
Maybe you should take a week to rest. Do you ever think about that?
I probably should. I played too many games the past 2 weeks.
That's true. Next week, I'm going to have to play a bunch of games and then to like make up for it.
Just get Game Pass and you love new games.
I love playing new games.
You do, just not every day when you could be playing Mass Effect sometimes.
I just don't understand why anybody
plays new games.
Be playing Mass Effect all the time. Okay, sorry.
Oh, just get Game Pass and a local library that has way too many games available to you, so you end up playing an obscene quantity of games.
Wow.
And then you'll turn into me, which sounds like a good thing, right? Why wouldn't you want to be me?
Yes.
I look intelligent.
Yes.
I sound intelligent.
Yes.
Nobody can see my face right now, so they have to think that I look intelligent.
You do not, at this present moment, look like a Who from Whoville.
I am not holding my nose into the air like either a Who from Whoville or somebody trying to make their nose look like a pig's nose. Oink. 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 Did we do the same thing? I don't like when we make the same jokes.
Well, when you speak with someone every week for like almost 2 hours,
yeah,
the brains start to align.
Yeah, for a year. we're too. I think we might have.
You sounded so disappointed when you said that. Yeah, for a year.
I think we might have to cancel the show as we hit the year mark because it's just like we're just becoming the same person and we're gonna have the same jokes and same thoughts.
Yeah. We're already there.
Well, Kelly, it's getting into the warm season, which means my recording closet gets really hot by the end of these sessions. So just so the audience knows, I am always sweaty at the end of an episode of Talking Games in the summer months.
Just so you guys know.
I probably
That's
shouldn't have told
important
everybody that.
information for you guys.
Sorry. Also, okay, so this is real. This is good. This is information about video games. So I record in a closet, as I say regularly, because it's hilarious. That's just funny. This closet is heavily soundproofed. And recently, my partner moved into my apartment and we had to make space. And I was like, oh no, I have an extra television that I don't really use. So I put the 50-inch Samsung 4K television into my recording closet directly in front of me right now. And I also moved in my Nintendo Switch home console dock. And also my Xbox One X. And also I put some Christmas lights behind the television. And my partner and I have been using it. We've been rotating who's using it for video gaming. Because, oh my God, the acoustics in here are amazing. Because, you know, soundproofing tiny room. Perfect combination. We call it the gamer hole. So now this is the the Talking Games recording closet / the gamer hole.
The gamer hole.
So lots of video games get played. So I play games in the same room that I review them now.
That's
Isn't
crazy.
that crazy?
You know what they say? Partners who game together slay together.
Yeah, so we don't play games together,
Okay.
actually.
I know, but
They play like Stardew in my closet while I go downstairs and play Strangers of Paradise Final Fantasy Origins.
okay, but you're still both gaming at the same time.
Yes. However, one of us gets the gamer hole and the other gets the living room with the cat.
It's like it's like never mind.
Stockholm Syndrome?
Sure. Well,
Put me in this closet
You
that
said
makes me
Not me.
hot and sweaty every day, and then I slowly start to love it. I don't love how it
It's
gets
like-
warm in the summer.
it's
That's
like-
for sure.
it's like a sauna. It's like when you work out and then you go to the gym and then you go to the gym and then you work out at the gym and then you are like done at the gym, so you go in the sauna and you sweat it all out.
Yeah, that's
And then-
me. I should work out before this show.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to, I'm not going to tell you.
I
what
could
to
play
do.
Ring Fit Adventure for the Nintendo Switch home console, so it's also relevant.
That's true. Or you could play Just Dance 2022
They have that at my
Nintendo
library. Should I
Switch.
go get it?
if you want.
It's
I
on
have it
PS5
on my
though.
Switch.
How do you play that?
On PS5?
Yeah, how do they just trust that you're doing the moves?
Yeah, I think so. Well, with the Switch, you obviously have the Joy-Cons, but I don't know.
That PS5 controller is too hefty. You couldn't. Well, I
It's
think you
very
have to get the. Oh wait, you have to get the camera probably.
Ugh,
That's bad.
just trust me. You can do.
Trust-
There's a mode that you can do where it's like not motion you just dance along with them.
The trust me mode.
Trust me, bro. I'm dancing. Okay,
You don't need to check.
I'm always dancing.
Give me an S+ rank. I'm doing great. Trust me. While you sit with Cheetos and just watch dance instructions. Sounds fun.
Sure does.
Anyway, we'll be back next week. I'll be in the gamer hole. Kelly will be in the very regular room that doesn't have a weird name
Yet.
What are we going to do to make your room strange?
I think that it was once Peter the Ghost's room.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, you know what we could do?
What?
We could get a bunch of little TVs and mount them to the wall behind your head.
Okay.
And then we could have every time we read a news story, like every single news story, we go like beep, 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 beep.
Okay.
And then you're like breaking news. And then all of the TVs behind you change to a breaking news story, you know, like right behind you.
Yes. Okay. I'm in.
I can't point because it's your screen, like right there. Yes, perfect.
Yep.
And then you know, even though they can't see you, I feel like the TVs behind you would really add to the vibe, and people would understand what you were going for.
Yeah.
I'm liking this. Do you like this idea?
I'm in. I'm all in.
Okay. Are you willing to buy all of the $1,000 32-inch monitors? Because we'll need at least like 20. Are you good to buy those?
Yeah, I'll use the Patreon money and then write it off as a business expense.
Okay, so we just need $20,000 of Patreon money. And then we will mount all the televisions, but we will not invest in a webcam so that everybody can see it, because that would be absurd.
Yeah, that's too much money.
We also have to get that bed out of the room. No more bed.
No more bed.
Get rid of it.
That's the only thing that absorbs sound in this room. Except it's a carpeted room.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think the carpet probably does more.
And my cat probably absorbs some sound.
She's very fluffy. I don't remember. Anyway, thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you next week.
Bye.